Hello and welcome back to Future Anthropology. I'm David Driscoll.
I'm Arnel Quirito.
Steve Kim here.
Today we are talking about something that's in the news a lot around AI and about technology, and that is some of the disruptions and the coming changes to our social life and especially our working environment, or maybe the economy, based on the developments in AI and technology. And our question is also, when these changes happen or continue to happen, is this a crisis or is this an opportunity? And what will determine which of those courses it takes? So any thoughts to start out? Anything going on lately that you've read about, you've heard about?
Yeah, so actually yesterday, the Anthropic CEO, Anthropic's the ones that made Claude, the competitor to ChatGPT. He mentioned that in the next 5 years, we're looking at 50% of the white-collar entry-level jobs being replaced by AI and robotics and causing about a 20% unemployment rate.
So replacing, what kind of jobs are included there? White collar, entry level? Is that data? Is that computer science? Is that just business?
A lot of it can also be like secretary jobs or just minute jobs with repetitive tasks that can easily be automated or replicated. Kind of like the low hanging fruit. If it takes any level of skill, then they might be a little bit more safe, but you can think at least 1 in 5 people are going to be unemployed by all of this change.
Could easily
Yeah.
be replaced.
In the next 5 years, yeah. So very, very soon.
Almost all the jobs that we see around.
Yeah.
What people do in the office. That's what
People do at the office. Basically, if you're at an office and you're not already established as an expert in your field in one way or another, probably could be replaced.
Yeah. Basically, Elon says AI will do everything better than humans. There's going to be fewer and fewer jobs as time goes on that robots can't do better than humans. So it's not like something that this might happen, we're worried about happen, but it's a very real possibility that fewer things are going to be available for humans to do.
I've heard also kind of slightly different take on the same issue. I've heard that some of the higher level jobs or middle manager jobs, that those are also very easy to replicate or replace. So it's not just entry level stuff. It's not just the high labor costs. It's even the things where you've spent years learning how to be the best writer.
Yeah.
Or the best editor or whatever else, analyst.
Yeah. Even programming jobs.
Yeah.
A lot of programming is getting better and better through AI, and it's just a matter of time.
So potentially.
programming and art and doctors and lawyers, medical diagnosis, and the legal analysis, those kind of things.
Right. I did see something about that. Looking at scan results, that the AI was already better at predicting evidence of cancer or something in one of these studies.
Yeah, actually, I saw there's this tool called Custom GPT where you can create your own custom GPT. And there's businesses being built in other countries where they're taking all of the legal documents, feeding it through that GPT, and it's becoming like a legal representative that people can pay $20, $30 a month to have access to and ask any question.
So I think it's not about which category or how much that category will be replaced. It's not about whether you are better than AI. I think it's about how strong your group is. If you have the power to protect your interest, you may
hold out a little
longer. But as a purely as a level of intelligence or skill, I think
no question.
I've
heard that, interestingly, I've listened to something about a lot of the adoption surveys, and last year a lot of employees started playing with AI tools, but not really admitting it because they weren't sure that their business would like that. But then this year, more and more are utilizing it daily in their daily work. But they said one of the most resistant sectors was computer programmers. And then they theorized maybe that's because they see the writing on the wall and they don't want to be replaced. So I think what you're saying, there's definitely some discussion about like using regulation and policies or just making a movement of like, don't use AI, don't replace workers. On the other hand, looking at history, it's probably likely that somebody is going to build a new business or do it in their business, and they could easily cut their costs a lot.
Yeah.
And utilize AI agents or tools and produce more for a lot less. So the point is that probably one way or another, change is coming.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned the figure of 20% unemployment.
Yeah.
So knee-jerk reaction, that's not good. It's going to cause some problems.
Yeah.
The first impression, right?
Our acceptance, before we discussing with the practical, more specific outcome than numbers, I want to talk about the change of our acceptance, our attitude toward the reliability of the technology. For example, like 2 years ago, when we first see the advancement of the new technology, AI, and when you write something, like copywriting, at that point, when somebody asks, "Did you use AI?" When the meaning of the question at that time, and then today, these days, when you say, "Did you use AI?" That's a totally opposite meaning.
Different implication.
Different implication. So these days, when you ask, "Did you use AI?" is to make sure the quality.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You used AI, right? You didn't use AI yet?
So which means actually, even before we see the changes in real numbers and outcomes and the job loss and those kind of things, even internally, there's a huge changes happening. We are voluntarily accepting it as part of reality, a part of our life. So I think what I'm trying to say is that changes are happening in a much deeper level than we see those kind of changes in numbers and the numbers and the changes in our workplaces. The changes are already happening in a much deeper level from our inside.
Yeah. And that seems like the kind of change that is unstoppable, is the one that happens without any pushing, without any kind of even explanation or understanding for most people. It just feels natural.
Yeah.
So it has a lot of momentum.
So because of that, what I'm trying to say is resisting the change and try to revert the change. I think that doesn't make sense. It won't.
It hasn't stopped us before from trying, but it usually doesn't last too long.
Definitely, we've kind of seen this play out before too, with like the rise of downloading music. Initially there was Napster and Kazaa and LimeWire and all these tools where you could download music for free, and the music industry heavily resisted this. And it wasn't until I believe Apple came out with iTunes and actually utilized the technology of downloading music and making it digital that the whole industry shifted from focusing on physical sales and trying to block this digital route for music to fully embracing it. And now the entire music industry is almost all digital.
So that example, I would wonder, because to me that looks like an example where the industry leaders, not all of them, but some of them pivoted and adapted so that they could still control and make money off of this. And I know a lot of independent music became more accessible online, so it has changed a lot. But to me, that looks like not a really complete simile to this situation, because I wonder how much any one company or one industry is going to dominate. I kind of hope that it's not a few big companies that dominate this technology and then monetize it for themselves. Like, I really would be a little disappointed if that is the case.
One thing that we usually miss when we talk about how successful or how competitive a company or a technology is, one thing that we usually miss is we just focus on how advanced, how powerful one specific technology or one specific company is. We don't look at the power of the importance of the presence of the consumers. So no matter how successful, no matter how advanced your technology is, if there's nobody who cannot buy that, then how can you make money? So making money,
Right.
making money doesn't come from the level of your technology. Making money come from the presence of the people who can afford to buy that. So without considering that, I think we cannot see the whole picture. We cannot actually understand the whole picture, what's happening now. So that's what, it's not only one way or the other, but the thing that Arnel talked about, the very soon coming the result of the new technology. A lot of people lose their jobs, and losing job means you lose your source of income. And then it will expand, not just only white collars, it will expand across the industries. And when that happens,
Right.
then while that kind of change is happening on one side, then how can your business, using the AI, using the new technology, with so many people, increasing number of people losing their job, losing the source of income,
Having less money.
having less money, then how can your business
So
can be
it's
successful?
cascading effect. Those 20% of people going out of their job, and then other businesses have fewer customers. Yeah, so there's a cascade throughout. So 20% may be just a beginning number.
So even for these companies that are totally focused on their own competitive power now, have to have their, I would say, more philanthropic understanding. Otherwise, they can be successful. They have to figure out how they can help the people who are losing their source of income. Otherwise, they're losing their ground. They're breaking. They're destroying their own ground for being successful.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
One of the popular like solutions that people have presented is universal basic income. So as more and more jobs get replaced by robots and AI, that sort of income also gets fed back to people. And then everybody has a certain level of just like base income that's already taken care of to handle all of their, I guess they call it like survival needs, you know, your food, water, shelter.
Right. So I think the basic income, up to this point, it was a idea as kind of social welfare system. It's a good intention from the more kind of progressive oriented government. But actually, that's, if you see the changes now, the changes that's happening now, then maybe basic income we have to consider that as kind of basic infrastructure to keep this system going.
Right.
And the other side, philanthropic mind or charitable attitude. Being charitable and being commercially competitive, being commercially successful was a very opposite attitude, but very opposite mindset or approach. But I think very soon, without this mind, you cannot be very competitive. You cannot be very successful.
Wow. So providing accessible services and products to those who couldn't pay for them, somehow translating into better results, better profits down the road. I guess it could be those people at some point have more resources to share with you, or is the government somehow supplementing that, or like you said, the universal basic income. But yeah, for a long time it's been your business is naturally cutthroat. survival of the fittest or the strongest or whatever. But yeah, what if you don't have customers anymore
Right.
who can pay for your stuff?
So the basic income, I know that there are a lot of discussion about this, like pros and cons, but simply the way I understand it is it's like expanding the meaning of a human right. For example, let's say in a group of elephants, when the new baby is born, they accept it as a member of community. They provide everything that the individual baby elephant needs to grow up as a mature elephant. And even the animal society has that kind of system as an infrastructure, like basic income. So if we have that kind of concept, then which means when somebody is born as part of this human community, then it's not a benefit. It's a right. It's their own natural right to have that basic the foundation to live and grow as a mature, responsible member of the community. So it's just by accepting it as a part of a human right, by expanding that. What do we mean by human right? We may take it for granted, and we may think that it has the same meaning for the entire history, but actually it's not. It having keep expanding.
That's right.
So I think now it has time to really expand the meaning of a human right, to expand it to that level.
Well, and the question that comes up, because when you said, elephants take care of the baby, and then I thought, don't we do it at least as well as the elephants? But actually, in some ways, no, because it's up to, does your family make enough money? And yes, there's basic welfare and support like that, but also there's a lot of expectation that the nuclear family should take care of those things. And in different cultures, I think it's expanded a little bit differently. But the idea that, if your parents didn't do well, too bad for you. That's the moral failing of your family. Versus UBI, where it's kind of like you are a child of the society. So in some sense, it sounds more like a village raising together and taking care of people. And I think one of the issues, maybe touchy issues, is not just as a child, but even for adults. So it's kind of providing
for everybody
that right forever.
So
not just to a certain age.
Yeah. The point that I want to make about the elephant is they're not doing it for their direct family members. They do it as a community. They're kind of understanding. So if animals can do that, then why not? Why humans cannot do that?
Seems like there's I don't want to go too far in what I think people think, but like it seems like we assume, if you don't do well, you deserve to suffer. If your family didn't make enough money, then too bad for you. It's not my responsibility. So it's a very kind of competitive look at basic rights.
Right. That the other aspect that you just talked about, the being successful as a business. So very soon, I think to coexistence, technology advance, and then the people who cannot afford to buy the new technology will increase. It's total contradiction. In order to make it coexist, then this side, the business side, should have that philanthropic attitude and mindset. That has to, up to this point, it was a kind of personal choice and moral virtue. But actually, I think it will become the most essential strategy of the business.
So what would that look like, even? Like what would Apple adopting a more philanthropic business system, what might that look like?
Some of the businesses that has a kind of global impact now, even though they not openly say that, I believe their leaders have that kind of mindset. If, for example, if you see, let's use the example of Elon Musk, and when I don't know, I'm not interested in whether verifying what he says is really true or not, but based on just what he said, the main reason why he's developing the space technology is to prepare some age when the planet Earth is not inhabitable anymore. We hope it won't happen that way. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is behind the motivation of the business, there's some kind of philanthropic attitude and the vision for that. So I think doesn't matter which industry you work. I think more and more people, business leaders, will either by their voluntary choice or they will be forced to develop that kind of mindset attitude to survive.
Something that I can kind of see happening is, let's say we develop this universal basic income, and countries that are utilizing AI start to give their population like a base level of income. But then there's going to be countries that don't make enough, or maybe don't have access to technology, that kind of the wealth gap of rich getting richer, poor getting poorer is going to become even more pronounced in this age of AI. How do we kind of counteract that? How do we ensure that everybody is kind of rising with the tide instead of just a few who have the access to it?
I believe that comes from consumer side. So not buying. I remember that we talked about not knowing. That's not weakness. That's actually power, wisdom.
Right.
And I would apply the same kind of shift of the mindset to not buying. So
Choosing not to buy something is as important or more important than choosing to buy.
And also, when you cannot buy or when you don't buy, it's not your weakness. Actually, it can be your weapon. It can be your power. Actually, in history, when some business are not doing a good job, consumers, when they're collectively aware of that problem, then actually boycotting, refusing to buy those products was a powerful weapon to fight against the wrongdoings of the business. So when we, instead of just suffer from losing the power to buy things, if we are aware of it, if you consciously, intentionally use that, then actually it can be huge pressure on the businesses. And also on a personal level, I think it'll create the opportunity for them to really reorganize their personal lives, really minimize it, and really simplify that. So while I think this idealistic scenario will be like this, all the business will become philanthropic, and all the consumer will become minimalist. When this matches, and there's a basic income that support everybody to manage a decent life without wasting, without exuberant. That's kind of social structure, infrastructure, and everybody become mindful in their consumption, become mindful minimalist, and all the business become philanthropy. When these triangle combined, then I think they will be really different type of civilization.
I think you definitely described it correctly by saying idealistic. It's a high ideal, but it does remind me of the book Siddhartha, and they talk about the character. I think it was, a very famous book. The character at one point has nothing, living as an ascetic, and said that the power that this person possessed was the ability to fast, the ability to wait and meditate, and it was like, that's all you need. If you are not driven by the need to eat right now, the need to have money,
Do something right
today, then you can wait and you can choose what will be most beneficial to you in the long run. But if you are so driven by that need to satisfy your hunger immediately, you'll take whatever comes first in order to make a little money or a little food, and you'll get basically trapped into something that may not be good for you in the long run. And then, Not spoiler alert if you haven't read the book yet. It's been out for probably 50 years, but from this ability to wait and not respond to the first offer that a business owner gives him, even though he has no food and basically no clothing, and he says he waits and waits, he finally gets a better offer, he becomes rich because of it. But it's the ability not to need to choose
Right.
and take the first option that really makes him powerful.
Accepting not knowing as a power, and accepting not buying as an opportunity, as a power. And that's a huge shift. And when that happens, I think it will happen. Otherwise, life will become really miserable. So when this happens, I believe the businesses are forced to develop that philanthropic mindset. I think consumers also will be kind of forced to develop that kind of mindset for minimalism, simple life, and that, because when it's not just imagination, it will happen in our history. Right at the Great Depression or the financial collapse in 2000, the Great Depression 1929, or global financial collapse in 2008. When that happened, then the first response from the consumers was to cut their expenses and reducing their consumption. So and then a lot of people did that, not voluntarily. They were forced to do that, and they thought their life is miserable. But what I'm trying to say is, if we change our mindset, use it wisely, take advantage of that, then it will give us really huge opportunity to change not only their personal lives, but the whole structure, whole system of the civilization. And when that happens, I think it will reduce a huge burden and stress on this planet.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's totally positive scenario, but that's the way I see that. But I'm not saying I'm not a illusory optimist, because I know that this change may happen, and I believe this change will happen, but not immediately. From the beginning of this change, when it actually happens like this, when this kind of structure is established, it may take 10 years, 20 years transition, which will be very painful. So what I would recommend, what I'm practicing on my own, and also what I recommend to everybody that I know, is anticipate these changes and practice.
Practice, I think that's
Now,
very
from
important.
now,
Yeah.
So get ready for those changes.
Yeah. Something that people practice, and then when the crisis comes, they've done a few times. It's totally different than never thought about it, never practiced. Right. In fact, I know a lot of the imagination about like financial collapse or a scarcity of resources is violence. People expect violence. And some people will manifest that, and they're preparing for that. So they're stockpiling weapons and food and armor. If that's what we're preparing for, then that's probably what people are going to choose, even though there's no hopeful solution to that. But if we practice intentionally, like you said, minimalism, even intermittent fasting, kind of going inside, even meditation, these kind of things could be in a crisis so essential.
So I would say for the businesses, I would say practice giving. And I would say consumers, practice enjoy not having.
Yeah.
Accept not knowing.
Accept
joyfully. Embrace enjoy not having. That's a good practice.
Enjoy not having, enjoy not needing to buy. Yeah, the more you practice that, the more free you are. Getting good at having enough money and then responding and buying immediately, it's another form of addiction. And may not be possible.
Something I kind of notice about this conversation as I'm listening to it is like, I have some sort of like resistance to the idea that I have to make a conscious effort to make the future better. Whereas like what I want to hear is like, AI is going to improve things and we don't have to do much. Things will naturally just get better. Like that's my mind goes like, I just want things to get better and not have to do anything. But it sounds like the more realistic aspect, if we want the world to get better, we actually have to consciously choose to do the right thing, consciously prepare ourselves, consciously take action instead of just letting things take their course.
I think that's probably the biggest single factor, is that we have to become proactive initiators of the kind of world we want, rather than reacting to it and just waiting.
Yeah.
So I'm very optimistic. I'm willing to do everything that I can do and need to for the positive changes.
Yeah, I'm optimistic with some expectation of a lot of
Suffering.
maybe suffering and conflict. Although, yes, personally optimistic. Yes.
Sufferings are fine.
One way or another, there will be suffering. With change, that's always normal.
Yeah, it sounds like things will get worse before they get better, but as they get worse, it gives us the opportunity to kind of face all of those challenges instead of sticking in our comfort and just waiting for things to get better.
Yeah, any change, even the best dream, imagination, will go through some period of hardship. So it is a great opportunity to create something new.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. As always, please comment, let us know what you thought and any questions or topics for next time. This is very interesting to us, so hope it is to you as well. And then don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.
Thank you.
Welcome to the future place, where you see the human race. Past and present here collide. Join the journey, come inside.